So, good morning. This is Rico Speight. I'm speaking with you from New York, from Harlem, actually. And I wanted to talk about She's Gotta Have It. I was thinking about this and remembering what it was like when I first saw this film. At that time, I guess I was just maybe less than 10 years out of film school. And so for me, this was a new departure. It was a welcome relief from what had been the kind of popular fare that we had been seeing. This is, of course, 1986, so we're just not so many years out of blaxploitation cinema, and it's also the era of disco, pop, all of that, and so the idea of what cinema brings to popular culture was still up for grabs. Spike comes along with this film, She's Gotta Have It, and whoa, it was groundbreaking in so many ways. Visually, it was groundbreaking. I mean, the idea of how he even casted. I mean, just the thought of the lead character, this woman who plays the character of Nola Darling, and she's someone who's basically, you know, trying to bring a different, she's so different in so many ways. I mean, she's different in terms of casting. She's different in terms of wardrobe. She's different in terms of hair. She's different in all of these ways, and so it's just new. And so she's like someone that we've seen. She's like someone that we've seen in Brooklyn as a black female protagonist. Apart from the way that she looked and the way that she was casted, it was also the way that she was constructed and conceived of in the writing. Because basically here you have a woman who is really looking at and interrogating the issue of her own agency. This is a woman who, in the way that she's presented, we never, of course, see her at work, but we see her working. We see her doing things. We see what she's interested in her comments, but also in actually the material of her the business that she's involved with in the staging of the film. So, and of course, Spike makes way for his own politics, as I was saying. So in her montages, in her collages, we're looking at articles of the Bumpers case, the woman, the grandmother who was killed by the police, and Michael Stewart, the honor student who was killed by the police. And so we're looking at all these issues that basically are the police brutality issues that is a big part, unfortunately, and a continuing element of the afterlife of slavery. I mean, when I was asked by you to look at this film, and when I was asked to look at this film, I hadn't seen it since 1986, and so I was curious, actually, as to what this experience would be. The first thing I noticed is that this film holds up. It has aged well. That was something that I noticed right away, and I wondered why. I thought about it, but I also thought about it in terms of what I know now that I didn't know as well then. My own perspective has changed. So I see that what Spike was doing, in a certain way, he was a part, again, of a movement of Black independent film, which was at that point just kind of getting its legs. He's not the only, but he was one of them. And so this idea of the independent cinema as a way of, looking at oppositional Black cinema, this was what he participated in his way. Now, Spike is an interesting filmmaker in the sense that he is, he's become a part of the mainstream landscape. And yet, in ways, what makes that unique, maybe, is that the idea of political filmmaking is really not, part and parcel of mainstream filmmaking. I mean, you have to work to get that political aspect into it. But Spike he's maintained that. I mean, as I said, he's always kind of looked at contentious issues, and he's done his bit. I mean, from his own political perspective, which is maybe kind of neo-nationalist, kind of way of looking at things. So the idea of making this one of those oppositional, how do you make a film oppositional? What about independent filmmaking, makes it oppositional? How do we look at it when we go and see this film and notice that he's doing things that are not a part of just the mainstream classical filmmaking body of, as you put it, costume dramas? Well, it's different in the sense that it is oppositional. It is doing things, again, I mean, even the choice of bringing in this to the audience kind of look is already making it the audience aware of the fact that this is a film, you know what I mean? And so he's looking at that, this incredible interest of his in reflexivity, you know, doing all kinds of things. Of course, that Spike is, you know, he draws attention to himself, you know, in a way, and it's good when it's good. So this idea of reflexivity is good because he was doing that. I mean, it got slow-mo going on at in interesting times. He's got scene, like there's this, one of the scenes I really liked was a scene, I liked it in the beginning, but I had forgotten that I liked it until I saw it again. And that was the scene, there's the bedroom scene, you know, with Greer. Now, you remember that Nola is being courted by three kind of archetypes of black men in the black community. And she's understanding as we go along in the film that not one of them or not all three of them together, you know, would be all of what she's looking for. And that's the issue. What makes her tick? Can any of these men satisfy what she's looking for? So one of them, well, there's Spike. He's kind of like the community. He's kind of like the lower class. He's a bike messenger, no future, and irresponsible and comic. You know, he makes her laugh. And then there is Greer, the one I'm going to talk about. He's the model, very vain, very yuppie, very bourgeois, and he's trying to, you know, bring her into his world. And then, of course, there's Jamie. He's the one who seems more, you know, looking for a wife, picket fence, you know, that kind, and but he's overly possessive. So, but there's a love scene. She has them with each of them. But the love scene with Greer, it is so funny to me. So what happens is that, you know, she seduces him, and he gets the message that he's being seduced. And then there's this long, elaborate, fastidious way how he takes off his clothes and he folds them, and she's waiting. And he's doing this thing so carefully, so slowly, so ruefully. And at the same time, Spike's choice, again, reflexivity, his choice of the track for this bourgeois guy is Olatunji, the drums of Olatunji. That's what we're hearing in the soundtrack. And so, you know, whereas before, all this kind of more upscale, sophisticated piano music, which would more connote with, you know, bourgeoisness, he comes with the drums. And this guy is anything but that. But anyway, so Greer does this. So it takes Greer forever to get from preparing, disrobing, to the bed. When he finally gets to the bed, then we have this really high angle shot that Spike is showing us of the couple in the bed. And then he's doing this massive, really noticeable montage of jump cuts of them in the bed, not necessarily going to the beat of the drum. So it was just so, it was so noticeable. And that's the kind of reflexivity that's oppositional, that makes a film say that, no, this is not a part of the mainstream. I want you to notice this. And so I think that was one of the good things about the film, that montage, the way he was doing that kind of staccato editing, that is very important. So that was very interesting. And so I also thought about it in terms of the theme, you know, that we're looking at, this idea of the afterlife of slavery, you know, because basically, what does that mean, and how do we look at it, and what does, you know, what in broad strokes, it just says that at the Emancipation Proclamation, you know, there was no click your heels 3 times, which of course happened in this film, and then you're out of slavery era and you're into a post-slavery era where all those problems have evaporated. No, that's not the case. There's this, you know, there's this aftermath that goes into this afterlife. And so the same issues of black bodies and white gaze, I mean, that's still an issue. I'm doing something with Fanon, a documentary that I'm working on. So this idea of the danger of black bodies is something that you start to see that Spike is also responding to. This idea of who controls the black body and how the black body is feared in ways that it shouldn't, because there's this kind of this imago that exists about what, you know, a script that already takes precedent of the, you know, takes precedent over the human contact of whoever the viewer is to whoever the you know, the on-screen presence, the subjectivity on screen, that is taken over by this script that says black women are overly sexed and that they're you know, depraved and all of that. Well, this film skirts. I mean, you know, it's on the line. You know, it's bringing in the idea of being sexualized based on the script, but the way that he's doing it, she's not objectified in a certain way, and he's doing things that give her agency. So this idea of being oppositional to this idea of anti-black racism, which is a part of this afterlife of slavery, is something that he's taking, you know, hands on. And I feel like that is very important to the way that he does the, you know, the way that he writes the story and the way that his kind of mise en scène.